Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. I hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that. Welcome back to Chelsea News, friends. That's right, the daily series here on the channel where I reflect on what's been said about Chelsea, giving you my opinion on it. Of course, more importantly, asking for yours. Lots going on. Of course, the season has completed, and therefore the rebuild, the big changes, the evolution, the revolution has begun at Stamford Bridge. That's stadium behind me here in the studio. I'm going to talk about what Thomas Tuchel said in terms of his plan, run through what Fabrizio Romano has been talking about in relation to transfers, settle in, get comfortable. I thank you all for your sweet, loving contributions, like your likes and comments, and of course, those newcomers who subscribe. And all of you should make sure the bell's turned on for when you subscribe. Guys, the season may be over, but it's still a great opportunity to check out my sponsor, SPITCH. So you're prepared for the next games and get yourself acquainted to the platform. It's a totally free fantasy football platform, but like I always say, it's the thinking man's fantasy football that utilizes Opta stats. It's a really slick platform. You just join in every week. Really good opportunity for you guys to check out SPITCH. Now, click the link in the description. You can, despite it being free, you can wager money on, you can win cash and prizes. You can play against managers all around the world. Check it out, man. Click the link below. Go sign up for SPITCH. It's free. Do yourself the favor. At least check it out. Boom! And we're back here dans le studio, mes amis. So we're going to start off with what big Tommy Tuchel has talked about in his post-match press conference. Of course, relieved that Chelsea got a win in a game that looked like it was going to be yet another draw at home in yet another game where Chelsea dominated and just didn't capitalise. But it would have been a weird one because, you know, the motivation was peculiar in that game in terms of you're going to finish third and in terms of it being a heavily rotated lineup. But Ross Barkley coming in clutch at the end, he looks like he can be a good player sometimes, but surely the sun has set on his Chelsea career. Let's reference some of his quotes. I'm going to use this website called West London Sport, an article by Ollie Browning, talking about how Tuchel is not planning on changing the formation. Now, of course, this was a huge discussion point because when he joined Chelsea, he was parachuted in before that Wolves game. He looked at the squad pragmatically and said, right, we just don't want to give up chances. How are we going to do this? Okay, 3, 4, 2, 1. It worked. And then he obviously continued. And he still believes that this is the way to continue. Let's have a look at what this article has to say. Thomas Tuchel has indicated that Chelsea will continue to play with 3 centre-backs next season. The Blues will lose key defenders this summer. Rudiger, Christensen, both leaving Stamford Bridge. Cesar Azpilicueta might also be on his way out. And obviously Marcus Alonso, who's not a centre-back, but, you know, rumoured to be gone. Head coach Thomas Tuchel believes playing with wing-backs and 3 centre-backs still suits his players. The German was asked in his post-match press conference after the 2-1 win over Watford if the departures of Rudiger and Christensen might lead to a change of formation. Tuchel had this to say: I don't think it's a problem of structure that we have. I think that the structure suits our players very well. Not only the players that you've mentioned, Rudiger and Christensen, but also Thiago Silva and our midfielders. And it suits Reece James very well and Ben Chilwell very well because they have a little bit more freedom to attack on both sides. I'll give my thoughts on this in a moment. There were some reasons to play this structure, and the way we played, we were very successful. Actually, it is not the plan to change it. He is keen to bolster the squad, but the sanctions placed over Abramovich have left him behind. He says, look, we have clear ideas and characteristics of the profile of these players, but it's not like you put a name on the list and the list you get the player. You have to convince the player, and there's normally a lot of work to do. And Tuchel hopes that there will be new additions by the start of pre-season. He says, yes, this is the plan. Hopefully we can do this and have everybody ready for pre-season. It's a pre-season where you have 3 or 4 weeks together, and we need to be quick and fast to adapt to the qualities and the personalities of these new guys, the new signings. But first of all, we need to be able to sign. We need to be able to smart about it and sign and basically be on point. It's very interesting. I'm going to give you my thoughts and take on this because he's right in terms of when the wing-backs are cooking in Ben Chilwell and Reece James in that formation, Chelsea are unique. And this is something that I've spoken about before here on the channel. It makes us so unique that we'll be at the top of the Premier League table on week 14 over City and Liverpool. But it's vulnerable, I think, because as soon as even one, I mean, even though like Reece James can be great, but even as soon as one goes, Ben Chilwell, the drop-off is huge. It's not like Man City and Liverpool's 4-3-3, where they can lose one, bring in another one, and it's the same. If we had 4 elite offensive wing-backs that suit the system, I'd kind of get it, I'd kind of get it. But with like, for example, Liverpool, yes, the drop-off is big, say, when you can't have Trent Alexander-Arnold, but then Joe Gomez comes and plays right back and is just a little bit more defensive. But because they're one of our attackers, really, we suffer massively offensively, where, Liverpool still have a front 6, or, that's in terms of players in front of the back line. I think, personally, it makes us more vulnerable. It makes us not necessarily stronger, but unique in many ways when both are fit, and I understand why that's so alluring. But it's worrying when we don't have them. So I feel like a switch of formation and coaching a new formation would be safer long term in terms of creativity. But I understand why Tuchel doesn't want to do that and still thinks it suits his players. He spoke about Thiago Silva suiting a back three. It absolutely does. He's going to be 38 next season. Being in the middle as a sweeper and having players either side does suit him and protects him. But is that what we need to cater for? Is that a priority? Maybe. He also likes the double six, on front of a back three. I think with certain players out and certain players in, I totally endorse the continuation of the 3-4-2-1 or 3-4-1-2. I feel like it's fine. I know a lot of people will be disappointed we're not going to a more like Cruyffian attacking 4-3-3 or whatever, which, Liverpool and City have shown that's the shape they go for when they get their 90 plus points every season. But perhaps I think our problem is largely creativity and chemistry. Maybe we'll get new attackers. So we're going to move on and talk about the transfer window now. Excuse me. I'm going to reference an article of Caught Offside by Mark Bruce, referencing what Fabrizio Romano has told them in an exclusive, exclusive. Chelsea's duo's future in doubts. One player has a meeting planned to discuss his situation. Ooh la la! Chelsea could be set to make changes in the attack this summer, Fabrizio Romano reveals in his latest upcoming column for Caught Offside. So we know Chelsea need a bunch of defenders. We know Chelsea maybe need a midfielder, a backup wingback, but the truth is Chelsea still have an abundance of attackers. Hudson-Odoi that needs to come back. Hakim Ziyech, Timo Werner, is he going? Christian Pulisic, is he going? Kai Havertz, Romelu Lukaku, Armando Broja, which will be back for pre-season to have a look at. And then obviously Mason Mount, who's won Chelsea's Player of the Year yet again for the second season running, with an incredible output, best part of 30 goal involvements this season. But again, although he gets loads of goal involvements, I don't think we should be relying on this more kind of midfielder player to get all our goal involvements. We need strikers and wingers to get goal involvements. That's what we need. Let's read. The Blues have ended up the season on a bit of a low note, despite looking like title favourites at the start of the campaign. Boy, that feels a long time ago, doesn't it? It makes sense that they could now majorly rebuild their squad ahead of next term. That will mean new signings coming in, but also the current players heading out of Stamford Bridge, with Romano providing some insight on 2 attacking players in particular. Ooh, interesting. Both Christian Pulisic and Hakim Ziyech haven't quite lived up to the expectations at Chelsea, and Romano names them as 2 players whose futures could look in doubt this summer. Now that's not going to make everyone happy. We know Ziyech can cook in the 4-1-4-1 formation. He can look amazing. A lot of people, Pulisic's got a lot of admirers. Of course, you could argue, hey, we got American ownership now. Surely they'd want to keep Pulisic. But maybe that's, more of a fanciful connection. A lot of people will still be having concerns and doubts over Callum Hudson-Odoi, who hasn't been seen for ages, but I think I said it recently here on the channel, his chances created per 90 is I think it's in the top 7 in the league, despite never really got going. He's really still quite unique as an attacker, as a creative winger, Hudson-Odoi. Obviously scored loads of goals in his development career, and indeed under Mauricio Sarri. I think Chelsea might look to keep Hudson-Odoi. I think Thomas Tuchel likes him as a profile of player, of course playing him at wing-back sometimes as well. So that's interesting. Let's see what Romano said. This is a quote. Christian Pulisic will have a meeting with Chelsea to discuss his future. Even if his priority is to continue with the Blues, Romano says. Hakim Ziyech is considered another player with chances to leave the club. It will be interesting to see what Chelsea ultimately decide to do with these players. Also, which clubs might show an interest in them. Both looked like huge talents when they first moved to Stamford Bridge, but managed just 10 Premier League goals between them this season. Which of course is wild. There is obviously mitigating circumstances for all of them, and I include the system for Chelsea. Now, this is not me digging out the Chelsea manager, Thomas Tuchel. I think Chelsea players have been in a position to score goals when they just don't. But at the same time, I don't think the chopping and changing is conducive to a development of chemistry and form for the attackers up front, really, which is disappointing and frustrating. Fabrizio Romano also talked about Romelu Lukaku, so he's waiting to understand what Chelsea's plans for next season are, as he wants to be a key player. So Romelu Lukaku, does want to be a key player, but he has to be a key player, I think, to want to continue. He's 29 now, Lukaku. He's shown in flashes he can do bits for Chelsea. We know he can perform in the Premier League. We know he can perform on the international stage, and of course in Inter. So he does actually want to. He's not like kicking like up a fuss saying I want to leave, but he needs to be a key player. Of course, there's updates from Jorginho as well. For Jorginho and Juventus, there's still no advanced negotiations because it will depend what's happening on Chelsea in his future. If he signs a new deal with Chelsea, he probably won't go. Because he'll just want that financial security with his talky, chatty agent. But if Chelsea are like, no, we'll run your contract down and maybe give you 1 year extensions, he'll say, okay, this is all speculation. This is not a report, by the way. He might say, okay, I'll sign a long-term deal at Juventus in Serie A, because he does like the idea of going back to Italy. So saith the reports, ladies and gentlemen. So, of course, another quote from Fabrizio Romano that I'm getting from Cy Phillips on Twitter at Cy Phillips Sport. Chelsea will consider the possibility of signings up front this summer, so it's reiterating that, but also a new midfielder and a centre-back. Thomas Tuchel is waiting to have a meeting with the board to decide the names and strategy. So now, Thomas Tuchel said, of course, post-match, after yesterday's game, he will not be going on holiday, which you'd think after such an insane season with so much happening, the man absolutely needs a holiday, but he's like, no, there's just too much to do. He's doing a Ten Hag at Manchester United, who, by the way, he's got his work cut out for him as well, considering all the drama that's coming out of Old Trafford at the moment. But, so he's not going on holiday. He'll immediately start discussing with Todd Boehly as soon as the, of course, sale and transaction of the club to Boehly's consortium has been made official. They'll be around the table. Who knows? Maybe they've had casual discussions around the table already regarding this. So, where are we at? Centre-backs. Midfielder. Possibly an attacker. And for me, it has to be at least one wing-back. Of course, reports that we've reacted to here on the channel, the Perisic agreeing a deal with Chelsea, not re-signing with Inter after having an amazing season. Whether that was just leaked, briefed information to try and get him a new contract, it could be possible, but certainly we've reacted to those headlines. And he could be a really good option to play on both sides, especially if you go back and watch that video. We look at his statistics, his scouting report on FBref, and it's pretty darn magnificent. So, this is where we're at now. This is the current standing. Of course, we're going to be linked with a lot of players. There's going to be stories coming out, and we'll be reacting to them here on the channel. So make sure you have the bell notifications icon turned on when you subscribe, so you get all the updates about the stories, the links, the rumours. Most of the time, sometimes they're exaggerated stories, but it's up to us to make that decision in our conversations down in the comment section. So please do comment down below, and I'll see you very soon. Peace.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life, seen trouble, hustle on the double, silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo, chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I